Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name's Ed Hope, a junior doctor in the UK, and today I'm going to be breaking down some of the injuries and the medical science, if there's any, on a bunch of horror clips. I have no idea what's coming up, but I'm guessing it's going to be pretty gory, so viewers' discretion on this one. Kissing someone who is got a contagious illness, this is asking for trouble. And this has the fastest incubation time of any illness ever. Even influenza, which has a very quick incubation time, we're still talking a day. We've seen some foaming of the mouth. Most commonly you think about rabies when you think about that. Rabies getting its name from the Latin pretty much of rage, because it also gives you these weird behavioural changes which are kind of happening here. Jesus Christ. That is quite the symptoms of this particular illness. Not a lot really to say about that apart from diagnosis, becoming a zombie.
I'm eating this. What's the matter? The food ain't that bad, baby.
Yeah, you'd think at first he's having a choking incident, in which case they're doing exactly the right thing. You should always ask someone, are you choking? And if they can talk, they're generally in a good place, but if they can't, then you're gonna have to start the old back slaps quickly. But yeah, we know the film, we know what's about to happen. Interesting here, they're shoving a spoon in the mouth. I never really remembered that before. So they're basically trying to keep the mouth open, thinking he's having a seizure, but you shouldn't do this. You know, only if you can see anything that's clearly in the mouth. Don't be digging stuff out from people's mouths. You know, you could damage their teeth or get yourself injured.
Oh, no. Oh, touch it. Don't touch it.
Definitely kill it. What's all this don't touch it all about? Definitely kill it. I mean, yeah, the patient's not necessarily dead here. You may think this large kind of abdominal trauma. Essentially, we've got a penetrating trauma, but from the inside out. Really, if the blood vessels in the area are damaged, that's the thing that will kill you quickest. But we may also have perforation, so the bowel might have been burst open as well. That is more survivable, but it needs to be repaired pretty quick because infection can set in. And the crew basically don't even try and save him. I guess everyone's a little bit stunned. That's understandable. But really, they should snap into action, assess this patient, and try and keep him hemodynamically stable with all that blood loss and try and stop the bleeding. I'm guessing they've got pretty sophisticated medical care, so that needs to kick in. Bloomin' heck. I mean, the first Final Destination made me check my tray table every time I was on a flight, and I swear if that switch had ever broken, I would not have gotten on it. But this is brutal. I'm pretty sure some Sunbed expert will say this could never happen, but let's assuming that electronically this was possible. The pain involved in the short term is gonna be unreal, and then we'll quickly descend into heat stroke, where your body temperature rises beyond what it can control. We then have the burns. You know, the skin is a physical barrier, that's why you need it. So you're going to get hypothermia, dehydration, so the amount of fluid you won't be able to keep in your body, and infections too. So yeah, okay, they're not really in trouble in the next few minutes unless they get set on fire, but you know, those burns are going to be deep and they're going to be extremely painful. I shouldn't have tempted fate there. It's widely known that it's the smoke and the noxious particles and damage to the airway that can kill you pretty quickly in fires, but having said that, when it's this bad, yeah, it's just a combination of the whole thing. What? That is absolutely ridiculous. How did he even collapse down? I'm going to have to watch that in slow motion. It's literally like he gets compressed in a vice. What you'd really expect, and you do see it to some extent, is the body to collapse down at the joints, because that's where it naturally bends. And one of the issues is he's looking up, so he's going to have a hyperextension injury as that weight comes down. So it's going to fracture his neck, and if that happens high up, he'll be unable to breathe. But, you know, he doesn't look like he's got a head either, like a massive catastrophic brain injury. Every bone in his body also probably fractured, and every organ therefore just going to have blunt force trauma and squashed open. Often when you think of these trauma, you think, well, how are the life support organs doing? But there's not even going to be a heart to pump anything. So anyone not a fan of the health and safety talks at work, get them to watch this.
Can I be the helpless victim? Okay, let's see. No, please don't kill me, Mr. Ghostface. I want to be in the sequel.
She is way too chilled for what's going on here. What the frick? So, not quite as extreme as the last clip, but another traumatic brain injury. Let's have a look at that back, but it looks like an obvious skull fracture with the deformity. She has got a chance here. Okay, that's a pretty significant injury. Firstly, seeing someone like this, you'd have to worry about a spine injury. But if you look at the initial impact, we've clearly got a skull fracture there. So it's really how much has the skull been able to protect the brain, because as soon as it's fractured, that force is going to be applied directly to the brain. We actually call this type of mechanism a static loading mechanism. So slow kind of crush of the brain, which is actually better for the brain than kind of a concussive force, but still the brain is very delicate, so we would expect some kind of brain contusion. But the real thing that would kill her, I think, would be any kind of bleeding inside the brain, either within the brain tissue or around the brain, that over time will build up and can put pressure on the brain and kill you that way. All things considered, she's going to struggle to get medical attention with this killer on the loose. There's some kind of weird cult thing going on. Not seen this movie. Really, to survive this, you're gonna need a lot of luck. From this height, you're gonna get multiple life-threatening injuries. So you could get chest trauma, which damages the lungs, so a pneumothorax, collapsing the lung, blood around the lung, direct injury to the heart or bleeding around the heart, severe bleeding from pelvic fractures or long bone fractures, spinal injury, skull fracture and traumatic brain injury. All of these things, and probably lots of these things combined, are gonna end up causing the problems. You do hear of people surviving these type of things, but not when they've collided with a rock like this.
This is an astoundingly durable creation. It contains approximately 10 pints of blood, yet it is still able to operate with just half of that.
He's absolutely right. Got about 10 pints of blood, and we are pretty durable. Although it's definitely exaggerating it a little bit. If you lost 50% of your blood volume, that is stage 4 hemorrhagic shock, so the worst one, and you'll be looking pretty sick. Your blood pressure would be in your boots, your heart rate would be sky high, and that is life-threatening.
It must be filled to the marked level, a level that is of no coincidence. This amount can come from any one of you.
What the frick? I mean, the only way to do it would be to do it as slow as possible, just so you give your body time to adapt. But this is freaking crazy. I think that's quite enough of that. It's going to be very difficult to cut down here and then end up bleeding to death. It's going to take an awful long time, because it's not going to be until you really get deeper into the hand and then into the wrist that you're going to hit big arteries and veins enough to you know, make you bleed out in 10 or so minutes. The symptoms they're showing here of going very white and passing out, this is because, you know, they're losing so much blood that despite their heart rate increasing, their blood pressure is dropping, so they're not getting enough blood to be able to perfuse their brains, so they're starting to lose consciousness, which is exactly what you'd see. So I told you it would be a rough ride, but there you have it, some breakdown of these pretty gruesome scenes from some horror movies. I hope you learned something along the way. Even if you didn't, I hope you enjoyed watching me squirm a bit. So if there are any other TV shows or films you want me to break down, let me know in the comments down below. And as always, thank you for all the support on the channel, and I'll be back soon.